Oh, hi. This is a talk about business intelligence, but I don't think it's just a talk about business intelligence, but it's a talk about this talk, about what we want to try to accomplish with this thing, which seems like a 5 to 10 minute no big deal. Throw a couple of slides up there, and we're done. But I really think this particular talk, it seems like it could really be the difference between us just being yes ma'am, yes sir order taker and a capital D decision maker, because it will influence the way that people see what we do, and it will also help people decide whether they want to invest in resources from our team, if they want to add more resources to our team, if they want to give us the cool projects, or if they just want to kind of shove us in at the end as a shoehorn. So I thought maybe we ought to take some time to think about the story that we want to tell. Now I know you might be thinking, why is Rob just talking to me when really what we do need to do is just build that PowerPoint deck? And the answer is, I just wanted to emphasize that the first thing that we've got to do is figure out what the story is, and the second thing is figure out what supports that story. All the worst presentations that I've ever given, and most of the worst presentations that I've ever seen, the slides were made first. So, having said that, I think the other thing we need to talk about is, even though everybody is going to come to these presentations and they're going to be a captive audience, it's important to remember that we might have their body present, but we're not going to have their mind present unless we can keep them engaged, keep them excited. And I think the easiest way to do that is to, number one, entertain them, and number two, show them why what we're saying is relevant to them. Every other team in IT at IB is having to prepare one of these, and so they're going to be sympathetic for that reason. But outside of that, if we can show them that we're important and that we make their jobs more important and that we make their jobs more useful to the enterprise, then I think they're going to be engaged and they're going to be supportive. They want us to succeed when we give our presentation, but we want them to hear what we said and be able to crystallize it and tell somebody else. We want to make a quick message that carries. So I've already used 2.5 minutes. Sorry. Let's go fast because we don't have that much time. So business intelligence is it's the team at IT and the team at Interstate that serves a couple of pretty important roles. If the business decides that they want to take off on any kind of a venture, whether that's an RFID, or if that's an inventory play, or if that's a particular marketing program, it really behooves them to involve us, because not only can we give them guidance on what the best factors to consider, but also we can help them measure the success of what they're doing. So we probably need to get something in there that talks about that. We have the help them find answers. We have the help them use all the relevant data and then transform the business. We probably do need to get more specific. One of the things we need to talk about is maybe what dashboards do. Seems like when we gave our talk, Steve McNabb was a little confused. So I would start off with what business intelligence is and does and tries to accomplish. Then I would say, here's the team. And I think that's kind of the direction that you wanted to go, was who, what, how. Maybe we ought to go how, who, what. How, who, what, how, why. Because we want to make them care. Even before they know who the people are, it's got to be something that matters to them. So once we've introduced Mark and his team, I would introduce the ETL side of the house as the people that transform data into information. Because having a connection to the sources that would tell you whether something is a good idea or a bad idea is one thing. Usually anybody can get a file from somebody. But to change that data into information is something uniquely that the ETL team does, the data team does. They take a connection, effectively, a file, and then they turn that into an everyday, on a regular schedule, readily available data source for us to mine information. And then Kalyan's analytics team picks up by transforming that very useful and data-rich data source, too many words, data, sorry, and turning that into a dashboard or a data source that can be mined by the business to discover answers on their own or to confirm an idea or a question that they think they already have an answer to. Lots of words, I apologize, but the story is the data is not useful, but the information, once Mark transforms it, creates that pipeline, makes it analyzable, for a better term, we probably need to keep looking. And then once Kalyan's team transforms that into something that can be digested, that can be thrown up on a projector and discussed, that can be reviewed every morning before the route truck drivers leave to deliver batteries, can be reviewed throughout the day to see how things are going once we get to closer to real time. And once we have that insight, it becomes kind of the jumping off point for us to operate our business. That's kind of the RFID, RSE type of model, or to analyze our business. That's kind of the optics. There was a study that Chris Roden's team did to determine why certain accounts were eroding and some of them were growing. We have all of that historical data for people to mine, and it's organized so that we can compare products and their performance over time. And then we can talk about what we use. So we use Informatica Power Center. We probably can throw some logos up there in the slides. We can show a sample flow of how something complicated from E1 makes its way to a MicroStrategy dashboard. And it doesn't have to be overly talked about, just something to say, hey, look, here's a visual of what can happen when you connect all the parts together. You don't want to parse through this in Excel. So Mark parses through it with his tools and gives it to Kalyan's team to make it visible through a web browser or in an email or hopefully one day on an iPhone or an iPad. Then a simple dashboard visual to maybe we can find something that illustrates the point between digging through a spreadsheet and seeing a clear trend on a visual. Might be something that we would want to show. And then we can talk about how even before we understand what needs to be accomplished, we have the ability to work with data sources, form a prototype or an answer, and then deliver that to the business. And as they begin to solidify what it is that they actually want to see, we have the flexibility with MicroStrategy and with Informatica to change what that feed includes and then change what that dashboard shows. And then we also have the ability and do frequently show these visuals to people outside of the home office, which some of these teams may or may not be doing. So that might be something worth calling out. But I think really before we get into slides, we need to talk about, what is the story? What is a day? Maybe an angle is what would Interstate look like without a business intelligence team? What do we look like if we don't have someone organizing data and presenting it and showing very, very busy distributors the value in their data, or showing national account managers the performance of their customers without having to be called on the phone and told that they're in trouble. I think that's a decent enough start.